President-elect,
the tweet that you had this morning about are we living in Nazi Germany, what were you driving at there? What are you trying to tell the
I think it was disgraceful that the intelligence agencies allowed any information that turned out to be so false and fake out. I think it's a disgrace. And I say that, and that's something that Nazi Germany would have done and did do. I think it's a disgrace. That information that was false and fake and never happened got released to the public. As far as BuzzFeed, which is a failing pile of garbage, writing it, I think they're going to suffer the consequences. They already are. And as far as CNN going out of their way to build it up, and by the way, we just found out I was coming down, Michael Cohen. Michael Cohen is a very talented lawyer. He's a good lawyer in my firm. It was just reported that it wasn't this Michael Cohen they were talking about. So all night long, it's Michael Cohen. I said, I want to see your passport. He brings his passport to my office. I say, hey, wait a minute. He didn't leave the country. He wasn't out of the country. They had Michael Cohen of the Trump Organization was in Prague. It turned out to be a different Michael Cohen. It's a disgrace what took place. It's a disgrace. And I think they ought to apologize to start with Michael Cohen.
Since you're attacking us, can you give us a question? No, Mr.
President-elect. Go ahead.
Mr. President-elect, since you are attacking our news organization, can you give us a chance?
Your organization
you are attacking our news organization. Can you give us a chance to ask a question, sir?
Go ahead.
Sir, can you state, Mr. President-elect, can you state categorically, Mr. President-elect, can you give us a question? You're attacking us. Can you give us a question? Can you give us a question?
I'm not going to give you a question.
Can you state categorically?
You are fake news.
Sir,
Go ahead.
can you state categorically that nobody... No, Mr. President-elect, that's not appropriate.
Rather than break down a trailer for an upcoming movie or TV show, I thought I would switch gears this time and address the trailer that we see playing out in everyday life, what we see in the mainstream media, especially with respect to politics. Now, I do not claim to be an expert in the field of politics. I am not a news analyst. I know there are many great channels out there who like to expose the fakeness in the media and how so much of our news is completely made up and is false and are full of crisis actors and all that kind of stuff. And people like Russian Vids or ODD TV or Truth Media Revolution, there are many great channels out there that are exposing the fraud of the mainstream media. But for me, I guess I have been noticing a lot of different narratives that are playing out in politics, especially with regard to Donald Trump. Many of us, of course, know that Trump was inaugurated as the United States 45th president just a week or so ago. And, there are just so many things circulating about this man, and I just can't help but, do a video regarding some of the things that I am noticing. And I do not claim to be, again, an expert in politics. I am not trying to make any predictions here. This video is meant more to speculate and to question and to just get people thinking as to what could possibly be going on here, because I believe that whether you're on the right or on the left, I believe that both sides are basically forwarding the same agenda, that the right or the left, whether you're Republican or Democrat, conservative or liberal, I believe that both sides are part of the same team and they are playing us like crazy, which is actually something that I addressed in a previous video I did sometime last year during the presidential election and all that stuff that was going on around that campaigning time for Hillary and Trump. But anyways, of course, you saw from the clip at the beginning of this video that Trump called out a CNN news reporter as fake news. There's an article here from The Verge on January 11th that addresses this very thing. And as we go down in this report, it says that when Jim Acosta, senior White House correspondent for CNN, attempted to ask Trump a question, the president-elect refused to answer. Not you, your organization is terrible, Trump said. I am not going to give you a question. You are fake news. So when asked about the BuzzFeed report, Trump said, it's all fake news. It's phony stuff. It did not happen, and it was gotten by opponents of ours, as you know, because you reported it and so did many of the other people. It was a group of opponents. They got together, sick people, and they put that crap together. So, these are the kinds of things that Trump says. Now, the funny thing is, they like to put truth in plain sight. I personally believe, in my own opinion, that CNN is definitely fake news, as is the rest of the mainstream media. I believe that they're putting truth in plain sight, as we see that all the time. And of course, CNN, we know, is a big part of the establishment, as would be Fox, as would be NBC, ABC, CBC in Canada. All the mainstream media are definitely in on this nonsense that they want to feed the public. So, it's funny how, Trump is calling out the fake news now. So there's something there that he is, saying that's quite interesting. Then we have another article here from Life News where Donald Trump slams the mainstream media for not covering the March for Life. And he was interviewed by ABC. This article is back from January the 26th of 2017, just a few days ago. And this is an interview that was aired as one of his first interviews as the president of the U.S. And the interview questions range from immigration policy to what carpet he chose for the Oval Office. But things got awkward for interviewer David Muir when he tried to stick Trump with questions about the Women's March on Saturday. Let me just ask you, while we're standing outside, could you hear the voices from the Women's March here in Washington? No, I couldn't hear them. The crowds were large. Now, this is Trump speaking. But you will have a large crowd on Friday, too, which is mostly pro-life people, Trump informed Muir, before hammering him for the media's long history of blatantly ignoring the annual March for Life in Washington, D.C. You're going to have a lot of people coming on Friday, and I will say this, and I didn't realize this, but I was told you will have a very large crowd of people. I don't know as large or larger. Some people say it will be larger. Pro-life people, and they say the press doesn't cover them. So Muir, which is right here from ABC, was caught completely off guard and was left stuttering by the turn of events. I don't want to compare crowd sizes again. He said, trying to scramble away from the issues of liberal media bias against conservatives. Okay, so then Trump would let it go. No, you should. But let me just tell you, what you do say is that the press doesn't cover them. So basically, Trump really got on this guy for not covering conservative issues, that, really exposing the media bias and always wanting to promote the liberal agenda. They never seem to want to talk about conservative issues, or both sides. They seem to have such a bias in wanting to promote the left, the pro-abortion people, and they want to promote all the other things like the transgenderism, the feminism, all those kinds of things they want to promote, or even the Black Lives Matter, they want to push the racist narrative, all these kinds of things. But so first you've got Trump, calling out CNN, you've got Trump calling out ABC and slamming them for not covering issues that conservatives care about. And then we've got another article here from the New York Times from January 29th, just yesterday. And of course, it was about Trump's executive order on immigration, what we know and what we don't. And of course, what happened is President Trump's executive order on immigration indefinitely barred Syrian refugees from entering the United States, suspending all refugee admissions for 120 days, and blocked citizens of 7 Muslim-majority countries, refugees or otherwise, from entering the United States for 90 days, which includes Iran, Iraq, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, Syria, and Yemen. So the order unleashed chaos on the immigration system and in the airports in the United States and overseas, and prompted protests and legal action. So there's a quick guide as to what they're talking about, as to what was happening. Okay, I will leave these links for these articles that you can take a look for yourself, and even do your own research, where basically a lot of chaos and protests ensued when Trump signed this order to indefinitely bar immigration especially from Muslim countries. I guess, the narrative is that he's trying to get things in order. Now, I am, again, not saying that I'm for Trump or against him. I'm just trying to show you what has been taking place in the media, what's been happening in real life, and basically the narrative that the media shows us. So basically, we've got, them talking about Trump calling out the fake news, or calling CNN fake news. We've got him being shown on ABC as basically slamming them for not covering conservative issues. We've got the media showing how he's put in this executive order to put a temporary ban on immigration. Then we've got another article from CNN that talks about how he's basically orders the construction of the border wall and boosts deportation force. So basically it says that President Donald Trump, now this article was from the January 25th, just a little while ago, last week. So President Donald Trump on Wednesday started to reshape U.S. immigration enforcement policies via executive action, taking his first steps toward fulfilling some of the most contentious pledges that defined his campaign. building a border wall and speeding the deportation of undocumented immigrants. So Trump signed 2 executive orders directing the construction of a wall on the U.S.-Mexico border, boosting Border Patrol forces and increasing the number of immigration enforcement officers who carry out deportations. The orders also call for stripping sanctuary cities of federal grant funding and announce sweeping new criteria that could make many more undocumented immigrants priorities for deportation. So, again, this is something that is happening, that another thing that, Trump is getting most likely a lot of flack for, apart from the ban on immigration, apart from the fact that he's calling out the media on their liberal agenda, even calling them fake news. There's just a lot of things that Trump is saying, and this is all part of the narrative that we are seeing taking place on a regular basis. And, again, one of the other things that Trump has been caught saying, and this was back from an article on the 24th, again, about sometime last week, that Trump has suggested vaccines cause autism, an idea that couldn't be more wrong. At least this is what the Business Insider in the UK is saying now. I know there are many people that have suggested, even doctors, that vaccines are causing a lot of problems, and I wouldn't be surprised. In fact, my wife and I are pretty much against vaccines. I believe that you are injecting your bodies with toxins that really shouldn't be in there. I believe they are not good for children. Now, this is just my personal opinion. I do not expect you to believe me or to take any advice from me. I expect you to do your own research and to come to your own conclusions. But of course, articles like this want to say that Trump is dangerous, and basically they're saying the new U.S. president has said he believes that vaccines are harmful and has repeatedly and erroneously suggested that they could cause autism. These claims are untrue and dangerous. So you see what the media is saying. They want to say that Trump is dangerous. They want to say that he's a liar, that he's saying, crazy things. So, this is all, this kind of language is there in the media. The rhetoric is going on that Trump is dangerous, that he's unstable, that he is unfit to be president. We'll see that article later on about what Obama said, which we spoke about again in a previous video. Then I've got an article here from PolitiFact in New York, and this is from August the 14th of last year, and it talks about Donald Trump is against same-sex marriage. And now Trump has openly talked about this, that he is against same-sex marriage, or you'll see later on that he has changed his tune. But anyways, it says that this U.S. Republican Sean Maloney called out Donald Trump during a speech to the Democratic National Convention in Philadelphia for the Republican nominee's position on same-sex marriage. So Maloney, who is openly gay and married, said Trump has opposed same-sex marriage and wants the Supreme Court to reverse its 2015 decision that legalized same-sex marriage throughout the United States. It matters who's leading the country, and it matters if they care, said Maloney. So then it says that basically Trump has been criticized for flip-flopping on social issues. Is Maloney right about the Republicans' candidate stance on same-sex marriage? So then it goes on to say that throughout the years, the earliest reference from Trump on the issue that we could track down is an interview in The Advocate in 2000. At that time, Trump was rumored to be considering to run for president. I think the institution of marriage should be between a man and a woman, Trump said during the interview. And then later on, fast forward to 2011, when Trump was again considering a run for the White House, he sat down for an interview with Bill O'Reilly on Fox News and talked about his position on same-sex marriage. I just don't feel good about it, said Trump. I don't feel right about it. I am against it, and I take a lot of heat because I come from New York. For New York, it's like, how can you be against gay marriage? But I'm opposed to gay marriage. So this is what, was told back in 2016, I believe, in August. So Trump has definitely taken a stand against it, and I definitely agree with that same-sex marriage is wrong. It is not biblical. It was never ordained by God. But then now, on NBC News, this is just recently, from November 14th of 2016, Trump says he's fine with gay marriage in a 60 Minutes interview. So in his first on-camera interview since last week's election, President-elect Donald Trump proclaimed he's fine with same-sex marriage. So he's saying it's irrelevant because it was already settled. It's a law. So Trump said in a 60-minute interview that aired Sunday night, it was settled in the Supreme Court. I mean, it's done. These cases have gone to the Supreme Court. They've been settled, and I'm fine with that. So basically, he's saying he's now okay with same-sex marriage, that he's going to take care or protect the LGBTQ community. But he is still against abortion, from what I believe this says down below. or at least this is mostly on the same-sex issue or same-sex marriage issue, but he is still apparently against abortion. So again, very controversial issues. He's saying that he's for same-sex marriage. Before he said that he wasn't. Then of course he's saying the whole thing about vaccines, and we know that many naturopath doctors have been, being murdered or being killed off or dying, very unexpectedly and very mysteriously. Many believe that they are being killed on purpose by the establishment, by the pharmaceutical companies, so that they can push their agenda of keeping people on drugs, keeping people getting these vaccines and that kind of thing. We've got Trump going forward with this wall, with this border wall and immigration for immigration purposes and protecting America. We've got him, of course, signing a ban or putting a temporary ban or moratorium on immigration, which is, of course, causing many protests all throughout the United States and many parts of the world. We've got him calling out the mainstream media for not covering conservative issues, where they only want to cover liberal issues, and there's definitely a media bias going on. We've got him calling out CNN and calling them fake news and BuzzFeed garbage. Okay, so there is a lot of stuff coming out, or a lot of a narrative that is really putting Trump or making him to be a very controversial figure. Obviously, that has been the narrative for a while, ever since this man started running for president. And now here we are in 2017, January, and this man is now the president. And of course, this narrative is still going on. And again, we have another controversial issue which came out this is an article from January the 24th of 2017, not that long ago. This is from BBC News, and Trump has put another executive order to pull out of the TPP trade deal. So the 12-nation trade deal was a linchpin of former President Barack Obama's Asia policy. So President Donald Trump has fulfilled a campaign pledge by signing an executive order to withdraw from the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Great thing for the American worker, what we just did, said Mr. Trump as he dumped the pact with a stroke of a pen. He also cut funding for international groups that provide abortions and froze hiring of some federal workers. Now, even Bernie Sanders, who was his, opponent or was running for the other side, actually backed this. Democratic Bernie Sanders told the BBC he backed it because trade deals like this have been a disaster and cost millions of jobs. So, again, another controversial deal or a controversial issue, the TPP. This was something that was, again, one of Barack Obama's babies, something that, the establishment and many world leaders wanted, and now Trump is pulling out of that as well. So we've got many different things that are taking place here with Trump, whether he's pulling out of the TPP, whether he's fine with gay marriage one time and not at another time, whether he's against vaccines and saying that they cause autism, whether he's, going to construct that wall to keep out the Mexicans, whether he's putting a ban on immigration, especially from the Muslim countries. He's calling out the mainstream media, calling them fake news or saying that they don't cover conservative issues. So, what is going on here? And of course, many remember what good old Barack Obama said back in last August, where he was, I believe, I'm not sure which country this was, he was doing this press conference with, but basically President Barack Obama has issued a powerful repudiation of the Republican nominee Donald Trump, suggesting in the clearest terms yet that he does not consider him fit to be president. Okay, so really, this is again the narrative that they want people to believe, that Trump is unstable, that he is unfit. And of course, Barack Obama's approval rating was through the roof before he left office. Many people thought that he should get a third term. Many people believe that, because Hillary and Trump were basically horrible candidates in and of themselves, that Barack Obama should just stay and, save America and whatever. But obviously that didn't happen. So, back then, when Obama was still in power, they had already planted this seed in people's minds that Trump is unstable. So, where do you think this is going? For me, I personally believe that Trump is playing a role. I believe that many people think that he's a savior. Many Christians even believe that Donald Trump is here to save the day, and they think that he's going to do a lot of good things. Now, I know that there are many well-meaning Christians who, want to believe that Trump is a good guy and want to believe that he's going to do a lot of good things for America. And, just as the slogan says, make America great again. But I honestly believe, again, that Trump is just one of the players, just as Hillary is, just as Obama is, just as all the people on the world stage, all the world leaders, the religious leaders, the entertainers, whatever you want to call it, the media, the mainstream media, they're all playing us. And, another thing that I keep hearing is this assassination narrative. And again, I'm not trying to make any predictions. Again, as I said at the beginning of this video, this is not meant to make any predictions or, meant to state absolute fact. This is meant more to speculate and to ask questions as to these different narratives that, at least in my mind, I keep hearing all the time. And, many remember, President Lincoln, who was shot dead and assassinated back on Friday, of course, on Friday, April the 13th, in I believe that says 1866. So again, very infamous day, Friday the 13th of April, that President Abraham Lincoln was shot and killed. So we know that he was killed. He was for the people, and he wanted to do things, in a way that was good for the American citizens. And of course, he was shot dead. Later on in history, another famous assassination that none of us will ever forget was President JFK, who was also shot dead on a Friday, November the 22nd, and the next day, of course, the 23rd was when it was in the newspapers. But on Friday, November the 22nd, that fateful day, President Kennedy was also shot dead. And we know that people like JFK was quoted as saying things against the establishment. He had quotes like saying the very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, secret oaths, and secret proceedings. He's also quoted as saying, "One day after I am long gone, you will remember me and say, we should have stopped the nuclear program of Israel, abolished the Federal Reserve, and kicked all the secret societies, occultists, usurpers, and Zionists out of our wonderful country to keep it that way, but it is never too late. Just remember that." Okay, and then we've got even other quotes by this man, as he says, "For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations." Now, this is something that was said by JFK himself. And what I find quite fascinating is the fact that this man was assassinated, but this other man, David Rockefeller, one of the high up people in the establishment, in the Illuminati, is quoted as saying, "We are grateful to the Washington Post, the New York Times, Time Magazine, and other great publications whose directors have attended our meetings and respected their promises of discretion for almost 40 years. It would have been impossible for us to develop our plan for the world if we had been subject to the bright lights of publicity during those years. But the work is now much more sophisticated and prepared to march towards a world government. The supranational sovereignty of an intellectual elite and world bankers is surely preferable to the national autodetermination practiced in past centuries." So that's right from the horse's mouth. David Rockefeller, who is definitely a one world kind of person. He is part of the Illuminati. He is high up there working hard to get towards world government. And people like JFK were completely against him. He was against secret societies. He was against the work of the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds and basically the Illuminati, the Trilateral Commission, all of their agencies, the Vatican. He was totally against it. And of course, he was shot, killed. And so, Trump's slogan of "Make America Great Again." Now, again, I don't believe that Trump is a savior. I believe that the right wing and the left wing, that they are playing all of us and that they're basically forwarding their agenda no matter who got elected. I believe that Trump was selected to win in this case. I believe they're trying to buy some time, and they put Trump in there knowing that if Hillary got in, that possibly it would cause chaos too early. But anyways, I believe that, the fact that Trump is being put out there almost like a JFK figure. I believe that JFK was, possibly very, very genuine, that he cared about the American people, that he wanted to see America as a prosperous and great nation for many people. But, and Trump, I believe, is possibly being made to look that way by, the media in an indirect way, or by many people. He's possibly, being looked on as a savior, like a JFK kind of person, or like an Abraham Lincoln kind of person, being for the people. But really, the fact that they like to show, Trump calling out the TPP, that he's not for that, that he's, against or for gay marriage, who knows what that is, that he's against vaccines, that he's going to go ahead with that wall, that he's putting a ban on immigration, that he's slamming the mainstream media for not covering conservative issues, but only covering liberal issues. So the media bias there, he's calling out CNN and other media companies as fake news. So really, what is going on here? I believe that we are being played, and there is a narrative possibly of assassination. We've even got people like Charlie Sheen, who's basically a washed up actor, but even he says things like the next celebrity to die should be Trump. And other people talk about that as well, that we're constantly seeing this narrative, at least in my opinion, that this assassination narrative, that Trump needs to die, that he's dangerous, that he's unstable, that we need to get rid of him. There is even what's even more crazy, a music video by Marilyn Manson. And I really want to thank Brother Steve Peterson. He is on the Facebook page and informed me of this music video by Marilyn Manson that's called Say 10, which is basically Satan. And that's the name of the song. But in this video, you actually see Marilyn Manson. He's ripping pages out of the Bible, just doing a lot of sacrilegious and horrible things. And later on in the video, he's got a bloody knife in his hand. And of course, we see a man in a suit, which is exactly like what Donald Trump would wear, and with the black or navy blue suit, and he's got the same red tie that we see Donald Trump wearing all the time, the white shirt, the dark suit, and the bright red tie. And of course, they show him being beheaded. Okay, that basically Marilyn Manson beheads Trump in this music video, and the song again is called Say 10, which is basically Satan. So are they showing us this narrative again? Are they showing us in plain sight, predictive programming, that something big is coming, that they are going to possibly do something to cause the chaos, to bring America and the world to its knees by causing some event to happen that causes such pandemonium and such chaos? Here again is Marilyn Manson with the knife. And again, later on in the video, again, I apologize for these very, very graphic pictures, and I will put, of course, a warning about that at the beginning of this video. But again, this video shows a person in a suit that is looking to me like Donald Trump has just been beheaded. So again, this narrative that we are seeing being played out even in music videos, very graphically, very much in our faces, and possibly they are going to fake an assassination. And I honestly believe that so many of these terrorist attacks that we've seen in airports and many other places have been definitely staged. Again, great people out there like Russian Vids and TMR and ODD TV have really been exposing the fakeness of these events. And one of them I learned from has exposed this Crisis Cast company, who is basically a company that I believe the governments are using to stage these crises, whether it's a shooting, whether the Boston bombing or San Bernardino, or what happened in the Brussels bombing last year, and even possibly what happened in Paris, France on November the 13th. And so all kinds of horrible things. And the funny thing is, the Crisis Cast CC, you've got the 33 right there in your face. And of course, what do they specialize in? We dramatize events for emerging security needs in the UK, Middle East, and worldwide. Our specialist role play actors, many with security clearance, are trained by behavioral psychologists and rigorously rehearsed in criminal and victim behavior to help police, the army, and the emergency services, hospitals, schools, local authorities, government, private security firms, shopping centers, airports, big business, criminal justice departments, media, and the military to simulate incident environments for life-saving procedures. So this is covering pretty much everything that you can think of, that they can come up with a crisis in any one of these different kinds of venues, whether it's a school, whether it's a government building, whether it's a private security firm, shopping centers, airports, hospitals. All these kinds of things this crisis cast company does. They actually simulate crisis events, and I believe that the Paris attacks and things like San Bernardino and other events, of Brussels bombings, all these things are being engineered by companies like this, and the elites are using this very thing to do that. And so possibly, if Donald Trump gets assassinated, I do not wish any harm to this man. I pray God's protection. Even if I don't agree with someone, I pray that God protects this man. He is the president of the United States, and I do not wish him any harm whatsoever. I pray this doesn't happen. But if something does happen like this, I honestly believe it is going to be fake, that it will be possibly a company like CrisisCast or some other organization or agency that puts that together, and possibly the world is going to be duped, and it will cause the chaos that I believe the New World Order wants. Because again, good old David Rockefeller has been quoted as saying, all we need is the right major crisis and the nations will accept the New World Order. So what I propose, what could possibly be playing out here, is the fact that Trump calling out the mainstream media, okay, calling CNN fake news and BuzzFeed, the fact that he slams the mainstream media for not covering conservative issues like the March for Life, but only covering liberal issues like the LGBTQ, feminism, Black Lives Matters, all these kinds of liberal things that they want to put out there. The fact that he is putting a temporary moratorium on immigration, the fact that he is also building this wall so he could be called a racist, because he's, supposedly trying to protect the country. He could again be called a racist against different religions and different countries because of his ban on immigration. He could be called crazy and unstable for calling out the mainstream media. And of course, he could be called very crazy for talking about vaccines and saying that they're linked to autism, even though there are studies that show that. He's also, possibly can be called a bigot against the homosexual community and the LGBT agenda because of his stance against same-sex marriage. Then of course being getting the TPP, he's issued an order to get out of that. So then of course Barack Obama putting it into our minds that Trump is woefully unfit to serve as president. So are they setting the stage for a major crisis? Because just as when Lincoln was assassinated, and then later on, many years later, 100 years later or so, JFK was assassinated. Back then people were more mature. The world was able to deal with it and move on. But now I believe that the United States of America, even Canada included, people are very unstable. I don't think people will be able to handle something like this. I believe that if they fake an assassination of Trump, whether it's real or not, I believe that could be the spark that causes the chaos to happen, that causes wars to ensue, that causes all kinds of chaos and crises that the New World Order wants in order to usher in their solution, the problem reaction solution, the Hegelian dialectic, whatever you want to call it. I believe that is what is taking place, and that is why we're seeing Trump being put out as this radical guy, as this maverick, as unstable, as woefully unfit, as calling out the media, saying things about vaccines, doing his ban on immigration and all these kinds of things. He could be called a bigot, he could be called a racist, he could be called unstable, and I believe that he is being set, or the stage is being set for a possible assassination of the president, possibly a fake assassination, all engineered by good old CrisisCast, CC33, the Illuminati, Masonic signature right there in your face, the 33. And so possibly that is going to be the event or the spark that causes the crisis that the New World Order people, Illuminati, want. So that was the purpose of this video, to cause speculation, to cause you to question as to why this narrative is out there. The fact that we constantly hear Trump being put out as this crazy person, and also others putting out threats to kill this man, to get rid of him. So that, I believe, is what is going on here. And I just want to leave you with a verse from 1 John 5:18-21, which says that we know that whoever is born of God does not sin, but he who has been born of God keeps himself, and the wicked one does not touch him. We know that we are of God, and the whole world lies under the sway of the wicked one. That's what I want you to remember. The whole world lies under the sway of the wicked one. Now, this is not saying that the evil one or Satan is in control. By far, it's not saying that at all, because we know that when Yeshua died for us, he is the one, that God is in control, that he is on the throne, but the wicked one still prowls around and the world is under his sway, which means that he is still doing his part to sway people, to try and convince people to join him, to do his bidding, to fool people into thinking that he is the one that brings the light, that he is the one that gives the wisdom, that he is the one to be worshipped. So he is still in the business of swaying people over to his side. He is not in control, he is not sovereign, but he is good at swaying people, and the whole world is being swayed by this evil one, Lucifer, the fallen cherub. And so all this chaos that the New World Order wants to bring, it is because these people are under the sway of the devil. The 1% elite, they are doing the bidding of the devil. They want to cause chaos all over the place. And I'm sure if Trump is assassinated, if it's a fake assassination or a real assassination, I believe that could be the spark that causes such chaos to ensue all over the world. So please, if you do not know Yeshua, please put your trust in him. He is the Messiah, the true Savior of the world, Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus the Christ. Please trust him as your Savior. He is the only one that can save you from the coming chaos that is about to ensue all over the world. And I thank you for checking out this video. I thank you to all the others who have checked out the In Plain Sight Facebook page. I encourage you to join us, to join in some great discussion and conversation. Again, this group is for open-minded individuals who don't have a problem in sharing an opinion, but we can all disagree. We don't have to all agree at the end of the day. We can all agree to disagree. We can agree on some things. Maybe we'll agree on everything some days, but there'll be days where we don't agree on everything, and that is okay. It is more, this group is meant for open-minded discussion. So again, thank you for checking out this video. And again, as always, please be aware of what we are being shown in plain sight. God bless you.
Mr. President-elect.
The tweet that you had this morning about are we living in Nazi Germany, what were you driving at there? What are you trying to tell the
I think
people?
it was disgraceful that the intelligence agencies allowed any information that turned out to be so false and fake out. I think it's a disgrace. And I say that, and that's something that Nazi Germany would have done and did do. I think it's a disgrace. That information that was false and fake and never happened got released to the public. As far as BuzzFeed, which is a failing pile of garbage, writing it, I think they're going to suffer the consequences. They already are. And as far as CNN going out of their way to build it up, and by the way, we just found out, I was coming down, Michael Cohen. Michael Cohen is a very talented lawyer. He's a good lawyer in my firm. It was just reported that it wasn't this Michael Cohen they were talking about. So all night long, it's Michael Cohen. I said, I want to see your passport. He brings his passport to my office. I say, hey, wait a minute. He didn't leave the country. He wasn't out of the country. They had Michael Cohen of the Trump Organization was in